Welcome to another episode of the podcast. I am your host, Ricky Valero. On today's episode, we are going to review the upcoming film Scream. This will drop before the embargo. I'm sorry, at the embargo, not before the embargo. I'm not trying to get in trouble. I'm not trying
I
to get my host
mean,
in trouble either. We are not trying to get in trouble at all. Like, I was just like, no, this is not. No, just kidding. Let's start it. No. But we are going to review Scream. And then, of course, at the end of the show, we are going to give our rankings of the franchise. I am joined by my good friend, Amanda. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Ricky?
I'm excited. Actually, I'm rather excited because I have my personal feelings about Scream 5 that I'll talk about in just a few moments. But um, I was very cautiously optimistic going into this movie. So um, before we dive into Scream 6,
Yeah.
what was your rating of Scream 5 and what did you think of the film?
I hated it. I hated Scream 5. I think I gave it like a 1.5 out of 5. Um, it felt like a very trend for changing everything while still referencing similar beats from the entire franchise to almost feeling like it was a parody of itself, which is not something that you want to continue a franchise with. I thought the acting was a bit stale in 5. No offense to Melissa Barrera, but I don't think that she's a strong enough actor to lead a film with Jenna Ortega right beside her. It's an awkward thing there. But yeah, 5 just did not sit well for me, and it comes down to the script also, because there's a way that Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson that they functioned together is the fact that it was meta 100%. You're pulling at the same conventions within the horror genre, but also flipping it on its head and constructing a horror movie using those tropes at the exact same time. And it's so clever. It's just so clever. Where here, it was like they were beating us over the head with it in 5. And I think that there's a certain kind of level of finesse in executing, the meta side of this franchise. So I think that's what kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And everything with Billy Loomis, just let's not do that. Let's not do it. So
It's crazy because after watching 6, and we'll talk about it in a second, but I feel like
Mhm.
if 7's good, right? I feel like maybe 5 might be okay. Like,
Yeah.
and it might become a better watch if the
Yeah.
trilogy is successful. And for me, I hated 5. Like, I hated it. Every time I watched it, I hate it even more. Like, I've watched it several times and I'm just like, I hate this movie.
I
And I'm
can't.
not just saying that because Dewey died. Even though that really did break my heart. I felt like Dewey dying was just
I know.
the wrong choice. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
it's the wrong choice.
Yeah.
Like, Courteney Cox should have died. Gale Weathers 100% should have died.
I'm not
Um,
gonna.
but she should 100% been the one. And I feel like just the
Yeah.
revenge story of Dewey going after the killer that killed Gale is a lot stronger than Gale going after the killer that killed Dewey. I just feel like that narrative is stronger. I get what they were going with. I get what
Yeah.
the ending, the woman thing, like I got that, right? You know, it was,
Yeah.
but that to me was so forced
Yeah.
because the rest of the movie just was whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, I hated Scream 5, but moving on. So what was your expectations on a scale of 1 to 10 for Scream 6?
I was sitting at a 9. I'm gonna be honest. I was expecting something fantastic with 6 just because we're out of Woodsboro. There's so much potential when you're taking these characters that we know for years, not only like just in 5, like it's Woodsboro. The whole thing with Ghostface has been tied to that one area. So to put him outside into the world in New York, one of the like the biggest cities, like it's massive. So I think that's what I saw. I saw so much potential with trying to track him down with, the technology that they can use and integrate it in that way. And I think that after watching 6, they did utilize the space the best that they could, but it had like me feeling the way that I do feel about 6 has nothing to do with the fact that my expectations were like up here for it in regards to moving the location, which had a lot to do with it. But yeah, I think that was a big draw for me, was that it's a nice change up and it's a bigger playing field for Ghostface, which I enjoyed.
Yeah, I agree. So knowing they were moving to New York, it was like I was at like honestly, I was at like a 3 or 4, going into Scream 6,
Yeah.
not knowing a lot about it. Moving it to a different city, I was at probably like a 5 or 6. I was still cautiously optimistic because there was two people. I love the twins, right? Mason Good and Jasmin Savoy Brown. Probably the only good part of the original movie that I loved of Scream 5. That is like their incredible pairing. They have great chemistry. They really bring that Jamie Kennedy,
Yeah.
character. Because, like I said, what's important about these movies is the comedy aspect. It has to be funny.
Yep.
Like, but at the same time, the kills have to be badass. Ghostface has to be scary, and it has to be gory. Like you have to be able to blend those, and it's not easy,
Yeah.
right? That's where they struggled in 5, and my expectations were like a 5 or 6. Now we're going to go through our spoiler-free thoughts. We're not going to tell you anybody that dies or anybody that lives or anybody that comes or anybody that goes or anything like that. But I do want to bring up that, and I want to see your thoughts on this as well. The opening. The opening was by far my favorite opening of a Scream since possibly the original. And
Yep.
I'm like, it was creative. It was fun. There was one moment, like when something happens, my brother came with me. My brother is like, he doesn't do movies, but he loves Scream. Like Scream's his baby. So I was able to bring him to it.
Yeah.
And I thought for a second that I was supposed to know who this person was, and then something else happens, and then something else happens. But I was like, this was creative. It was fun. It was brutal. And it was just it was set the tone for what was ahead. And like, if I was going based off my expectations of like going into it from like a 5 or a 6,
Yeah.
and then the opening happens, I was at like a 50. You know what I mean? Because it was such a strong opening, right?
Yeah, I loved it. And I kind of knew within the first 5 minutes of this film that I was really going to enjoy it because I was howling. I could not stop laughing. And it comes down to like using the similar tropes and making fun of, things that they've already mentioned. I'm trying not to spoil it, but like things that they've already mentioned in previous films. And it's just hilarious. Like I think that's the main takeaway, because I wrote that on for my Twitter, my social review, and people are like, why are you saying it's funny if it's also brutal? Like other people are saying it's brutal. I'm like, but I did say it was brutal. It's just also really funny how brutal it is at the same time, right? So you got that within the opening. And I do agree. I think that this was definitely one of the strongest openings since 1, because it's just so unique. And I think they nailed this opening. And I think that that's the tone throughout the entire film, that people are just gonna like, it's like the hook. It was really the hook in this opening. And I think that's why people are gonna enjoy it.
Yeah, and to speak further on that, it really does, because there's so many different layers of the film that I loved.
Mhm.
You do have a lot of gory sequences, right? There is some fantastic kills in this that I really just loved, and there's little pieces of things that happen that really, it's like why I love Scream. You know what I mean? Like this movie reminded me of why I love this franchise. You know what I mean? And even if you look back at the bad films, like my big thing with like 4, like 4 is bad. Like we know 4 is bad, or at least I know 4 is bad.
I'm sorry, what? I don't say we, because
okay. All right. Well, I'll pause right there. I know 4 is bad. Okay.
You're on your island of wrongness.
Well, I mean, I know, because we'll discuss that later. Apparently I will discuss this later. But I personally, there's a lot of bad in this movie. But even with 4, even with me personally not liking 4, you can still have fun with 4, right? You know what I mean? You still have fun with all right, we'll say it like this. Even the bad movies or the mediocre movies in this series, you have fun with them.
Yeah.
because of like the kills and stuff like that. No matter what movie you want to talk about, that's one or bottom, but it really brought my love for this franchise back because of how gruesome it was. You know what I mean?
Same.
But then at the equal parts of how gruesome it is, you have that strong comedy relief that is so funny. Like Jasmin Savoy Brown and Mason Gooding, they are literally just perfect, right? Like I don't know what it is. They're just their chemistry, how like Jasmin Savoy Brown breaking down the who is the potential killer. That entire sequence in the park was magnificent. Like it was brilliant. And even how she follows that through the rest of the movie and throughout certain sequences, it's truly amazing. Like it's amazing. And what did you think of the that killing comedy balance? And what did you think of? And we'll talk about the ending last. But what did you think about like maybe the first two acts there in the film?
Oh, I thought the buildup was fantastic. I thought that everything you said about the twins adding that little level of humor, which is exactly what Randy would have done throughout. And I think that if it, excuse me, sorry, if it wasn't for the twins, I'm not saying that Jenna Ortega took a back seat in this because I kind of feel like she did. It's more so to balance Melissa Barrera and Sam. Not that I want to say that. I thought that she was much better in this movie. I don't know why. I think she gave a better performance in this one. But I do think that with every joke that was there that landed, there was a brutal murder to balance that thing out. And it scared me in a good way where it's more, when you have those jump scares that you're like, oh, you get scared and you're like, oh shit, like that was actually really good. Like it was that kind of enjoyment that the first Scream had. And that's what I completely agree with, is that it makes you fall in love with this franchise again, because they did have a balance of everything that made the other films so fun to watch and make the name for itself that it has today. So I think that the kills were way worse. They did not leave anything unturned. Like the blood was everywhere. And the third, going into the third act, it's funny. It's just I can't, it's just hilarious for me to laugh the entire time. That's a Scream movie, because you understand the tropes that they're using and making fun of, and then you're laughing because they did it in a different way and made it fun.
Yeah, I agree with you. And see, the thing about it is I know a lot of people were concerned about the potential missing of Neve Campbell. And I watched this movie, right? And I even talked to my brother about it. I don't know where she fits in. I feel like if you put her in this, it ruins the movie. And I don't mean that. I don't mean that like there's nothing against Neve Campbell, right? You know what I mean? Like there's nothing. Like she is like the one of the OGs. But we're transitioning to a new phase of this core four, which the core four they really developed them way more in this one. I felt like that made me like them. And that's why I said if 7 hits a home run, I feel like maybe 5 can be looked back upon as a film that set up 6 and 7, which could be looked upon differently. But how it's set on. I loved Melissa Barrera in this film. I thought she really kind of stepped up into the shoes that people maybe expected from her in 5. You know what I mean? She's stepping into big shoes, right? You know what I mean? Like she really is like stepping into Neve Campbell's shoes. But in my opinion, I feel like, again, if she can come into 7 and do what she did in 6, she's going to set herself apart as the new age Scream queen. You know what I mean? Like, I really feel like she can. And if the writers continue to play to her abilities, right? You know what I mean? It's not to say she's a bad actress. We're not going to say, I'm not going to say she's a bad, it's just when you are in Mason Gooding, really good. Jasmin Savoy Brown, fantastic actress. Jenna Ortega, obviously fantastic actress. And you're kind of maybe not the veteran there, right? You know what I mean? Like maybe you are a little bit more green than the others.
Yeah.
But I feel like the writers played well to her talent here. And I think in the third act, she was the best part of best part of the third act. I felt like she was
Yes,
very, very strong here,
I agree.
and it solidified herself in this role that she needed because there's so many people that doubt her, right?
It's true.
Off
Yeah.
screen. There's so many people that didn't love her, don't like the idea of her carrying this franchise, which in like she is, you know what I mean? Like this is about her
Yeah.
in some ways. And of course the core four at the same time. But I know you didn't love the third act without spoiling it. I know that's going to be hard to do. But
Yeah.
what about the third act didn't you like?
How can I put this? It wasn't predictable, but it was predictable at the same time. And again, that's maybe because I've watched horror movies, or like I've watched and like I've screamed like multiple times, and it's like I I was very underwhelmed with the direction that they decided to go in. I didn't know who, like, I would have felt that way. I have no idea why the reveal of it all, I just felt very underwhelmed with it. Maybe it's the way that they executed it. Maybe it's the fact that like maybe it's the fact that things weren't I can't, it's so hard. I don't know. I think that things could have been stronger. I almost just said something that I shouldn't have said, but I just think that it was underwhelming for me. And it tied to, can't say that either. Never mind. I can't say that either. It's so hard. But I do have to say that I feel like Melissa Barrera was the strongest aspect of it. I just think that what unravels in the third act, it would dragged out and it was overlong, with it, and I don't think it was strong enough. I felt like it was a bit campy with certain lines of dialogue, and the gore that ended up happening in the third act was absolutely hilarious in my eyes. Um, but I do have to say that Melissa Barrera, I don't know if this is like the proper thing to see. I don't see her as a scream queen in this, though, considering what the character is doing and the purpose of this character. I think it goes more to Jenna Ortega as the scream queen versus Melissa Barrera in this. And I think that that's a really interesting dynamic to push forward. And I think that's what I'm really like excited for. If that,
Yeah, so
yeah.
I like like okay, so this is the thing. I like the third act, but I
Mhm.
don't like like I'm in between it. It does drag out a little long. It does
Yeah.
drag out like the ending sequence does drag a little long. There's certain things that are just like, oh, come on. But then there's other elements that I really love.
Mm.
There is a very, 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 very interesting way that I feel like they can turn the relationship between Melissa and Jenna that could really be so good.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
so good. And I really hope that they explore it in the way they do. And we're going to probably talk about that for a few minutes after we get off here because we don't want to spoil anything for you guys because
Yeah.
this will drop on March 8th and there's going to be no spoilers, but it's definitely something that I really like the third act. I also feel like part of me, the third act really was, or the last like 15 minutes, whatever you want to make it, the reveal and all that stuff,
Mm.
to me, that kind of feels like a setup for what's ahead type of thing too, right?
Yes.
You know what I mean? They really kind of reveal, it felt like the killer or the killers, it doesn't matter. Whatever you want to say, I'm not going to say how many there was, or if there's just one, there might be 75 killers. You never know. Okay, people.
To be
But
fair, yeah.
there could be 75 killers. You don't know, people. Okay. I'm not going to tell you. And you're not going to get it from us. But that said, that part kind of felt overshadowed, rightfully overshadowed by another sub storyline that I think could be strong in 7.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but we'll see. I mean, we'll see.
They
You
have
know what
to
I
build
mean?
it. I get it.
Yeah. But I do agree with you. It could have been a little bit different, but
I
God, it did go on about 5 minutes
I
too.
don't know why. I still can't even explain why I felt underwhelmed with it. Maybe it was where, and it felt kind of, I don't know. I don't know what it was. Like, I felt very underwhelmed with it.
Yeah.
But it's more so like it's the journey in Scream 6. I think that's the most important thing. Like you don't have to care what happens in the third act because they set up 7 quite well, as
Beautifully.
like
Beautifully.
so well.
Yeah.
So yeah, the one thing that I can say about 6 for everybody for going to watch it this weekend is that it's very much so the journey than the final destination of this thing.
I agree. What did you rate it overall?
I'm a 4 out of 5. I
Yeah,
think
that's where I
I'd
am
give it,
too.
yeah, because
Yeah.
I really didn't like 5. So I think giving this one a 3 just didn't make any sense. So I really enjoyed 4. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm at a 4 to 5 too, which I think would I think it's going to be my highest, and not kind of spoils it, but it's my highest rating since the original. So that said,
Ooh.
we have obviously 6 films to rank, and I'm very intrigued now to hear your ranking because mine's gonna
I have weird shit. I have weird things. It's just like
I don't care. You say shit. I don't care. Give me your 6, 5, 4. Like your ranking number 6, the bottom, the worst, the worst to we're gonna go worst to best, obviously. So give me 6, 5, 4.
It would 6, 5, 4, right?
Yeah.
Crap, I'm staring at my list.
I know.
It'd be Scream 5 and last.
Mm-hmm.
Scream 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then Scream 4.
Okay, see, like we have the same
Yeah.
3 at the bottom. Mine goes 4, 5, 3.
Okay.
So basically we have 4. Yeah. So I mean it's just if we switch we're
may
pretty
have
close.
Watch,
it's just
I just feel like I may have to watch Scream 4 again to kind of figure out placement for Scream 6 and 4 because I think they're both like strong in the middle, but we have the same like placements kind of.
And then I mean my 1, 2, 3 is the OG 6 and then 2.
Ooh, that's
I have 6 number 2. I have 6 number 2.
I would do 1, 2, and then 6. So yeah, it's like 1, 2, 6, 4 for me as like tops.
My thing with 2 is this. 2 I think honestly 2 might be my favorite opening. I love the scene in the movie theater. I love it. It's pretty fucking awesome. It's a little bit more hokey, you know what I mean? But like it's pretty incredible. I feel like it just kind of dove down a little bit towards the end of the movie.
Yeah.
But I liked it. I mean, but it's hard to say because like the OG is just the OG. You know what I mean?
You can't touch that.
Good. You can't. And it was like they tried over and over and over again. It's like it doesn't make any sense of why we wanted more movies of Scream, but it just because of the because they're not like I mean, I'm probably like Scream 4 is probably like I'd say Scream 4 and 5 are both like 1.5 stars to me. Like 1.5, 2 stars, maybe.
I don't understand how you don't like Scream 4.
3 is probably like I'd say 3 is like 2.5, 2.5, 3 stars. I'd probably say, and then like 2 is a solid 3, and then 6 I'm at 4, and then 5. The OG I have at 5 stars, but that's just I think that's a bias. That's a bias, but I also think it's like revolutionary for this generation.
Oh, 100%. So I completely agree with you.
Yeah,
I just can't believe the hatred for Scream 4.
I fucking hate. I rewatched those movies ahead of 5 last year, and I forgot how much I hated that movie. So
it hurts. It hurts. Okay, I'll forgive you this time.
Oh my God. That being said, Amanda, thank you for joining me. Where can everybody find you on the Twitters?
This was so fun. I love talking about movies with you, Ricky. You guys can always follow me over at AMX NDA Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd, and TikTok. I always forget about TikTok. I'm barely on it, but that's just for fun. You can check out my website, candidcinema.com, and my YouTube, Candid Cinema.
Yeah, I appreciate you jumping on with me. I do love talking films with you. It's funny trying to talk about a movie that is like laced with things that you can't really talk. Like I was writing my review about it today, and I'm just like, what can I say about this movie? I have no clue. This was cool, but this was cool, and that was cool.
Yeah.
This part I really liked, but I can't tell you what happened.
I know. It's like, how do you explain something that's good without spoiling
Yeah.
it. It's so hard. Yeah.
I don't think the world's ready for that opening scene, though. Like, I will leave you at that. Like, you guys are not ready for the opening scene.
No.
It's brilliant.
I love it so much. It's
Like,
so
it's
fun.
brilliant. Well, that's it for this week's episode. We will talk to you guys later. Let us know if you like the movie when you guys see it, because we'd love to chat about it, especially that opening and then the ending. So we'll talk to you guys later.